Calling the meeting to order, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Kim, would you please do the roll call?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Frank is absent. Council President Wright.
Here.
Mayor Barber.
Here.
Councilor Montero.
Present.
Councilor Phillips is absent. Councilor Pazalski.
Here.
Councilor Horny.
Here.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as circulated.
Go ahead.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. The motion carries. We have two very important proclamations this evening. Council President Wright is going to read the one for Constitutional Week.
Whereas September 17th, 2022 marks the 235th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize this magnificent document and the anniversary of its creation, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17 through 23 as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, Jay Barber, Mayor of the City of Seaside in the state of Oregon, does hereby proclaim the week of September 17 to 23, 2022 as Constitution Week, and urge all citizens to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. Signed and sealed.
Might be a good week to reread the Constitution and remember what it says. Thank you, Steve. Now, the National Hispanic Heritage Month, and I see we have a number of representatives. Thank you for coming tonight to hear this. And Tita Montero will read that resolution.
Whereas the period from September 15 through October 15 has been set aside throughout the United States as National Heritage Month, and whereas the term Hispanic or Latino refers to a person of Cuban, Mexican, Puerto Rican, South or Central American, or other Spanish culture or origin who can be of any race, any ancestry, or any ethnicity. And whereas the United States has always drawn its strength from the contributions of a diverse people. And whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month is a time to recognize the contributions made and the important presence of Hispanic and Latino Americans to the United States. And whereas Hispanic Americans have played a prominent and important role in our national heritage, and our Hispanic American residents lift up our communities and our economy as entrepreneurs, executives, and small business owners. And whereas a significant segment of the more than 37,000 people living in Clatsop County are Hispanic. And whereas we honor the rich heritage of our Hispanic community. Now, therefore, I, Jay Barber, Mayor of the City of Seaside in the state of Oregon, do hereby proclaim September 15, 2022 through October 15, 2022 as National Hispanic Heritage Month in Seaside, and we call upon public officials, educators, and all residents to observe this month with appropriate ceremonies, activities, and programs as they share in this special annual tribute by learning and celebrating the generations of Hispanic and Latino Americans who have positively influenced and enriched our nation and society.
Well, I certainly echo that. Thank you, Tita, and thank you all for coming tonight to hear the proclamation, because you're living it out. You're doing it, and we certainly appreciate your contribution to your community and our community. It's very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. At this time, I'm going to open the floor for public comments. If you would like to speak to the council on any issue not on the agenda, please come to that microphone there, identify yourself, give us your address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes, if you will, please. Anyone? Yes.
Mr. Mayor, council persons, my name is Tom Schwenzer. I live here in Seaside. It's about 5 years now, over on Holiday Drive. I'm here tonight to speak about an issue that I think has been growing, and I think it's just a total detriment to our city. That issue is about noise, amplified noise, soliciting without permits, and caustic and really, truly egregious behavior. I'll name two that are minor in what I want to say. There's a person that carves sand castles and growls at everybody and demands they give him money or look away. That's just plain strange. Solicits donations with a sign that says he's willing to swap for marijuana. There's another guy that throws his blanket out onto the prom right there in front of Moe's. He's quiet, but also his sign is willing to swap for marijuana, the sometimes live sand dollars he has on his blanket. Neither one of those guys have permits for this activity. I don't think they should be down there. I think they should be asked to either obtain a permit or cease and desist. But my main reason to be here today is about a person we all know as Bubble Man or Bubble Guy. And what I'm complaining about specifically is the use of amplification. Now, over the last 3 days, I've heard it several times. I went down maybe 4 o'clock today. He's out there. He's got an amplifier. I would judge it to be 200 feet from the turnaround. City Ordinance 131.07 Section A says that amplification should not be heard further than 50 feet, far more than 50. In fact, he's outraged. I don't know if that's running or not. I know you've got the golden buzzer there, Jay. So let me know if it looks like I'm running over. So anyway, what I'm talking about is his use of extremely foul language, amplified. He yells at people. He tapes off the area of where he declares to be his. He runs children out of there. The language I heard down there today is just beyond belief. It's not that I haven't heard it. I mean, you just can't believe you're hearing somebody do this on the beach. There's kids walking by. He doesn't have a permit. He's violating city ordinance regarding noise. He's violating state park rules regarding noise. Amplification is not allowed in a state park, which once you get to the bottom of the stairs and get onto the sand, you're in a state park. I think we either need the ability to enforce that with our police or to call on the state police to do something about it. It has to stop. It's foul and unwarranted. No one gets to declare some portion of the beach theirs. I've seen him run children out of there. Tell them they can't be in his spot. How close? About there. I want something done, and I'm asking you to think about this and to bring some sort of solution to the city. That's a focal point of our city. It's in all the brochures. It's where people go. I had people tell me today they couldn't believe the language they were hearing last night. I guess he lost his cell phone. Well, who hasn't lost his cell phone? And who among us has ever gone out on the beach with a microphone to declare it in foul language? Let's get this thing stopped.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
City Manager, I hope you've taken note of that. And I think he brings some very good points to us. Thank you.
Yeah, in fact, we were forwarded some correspondence today from him with that, and so we already have scheduled for our staff meeting tomorrow to have a discussion about that and what we can and can't do. So
Okay.
we'll get back with him.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Okay. Are there others that would like to address the council on any item not on the agenda? I did notice a draft. Kim, maybe you can shed some light on this Seaside Forest, Food Forest working name.
That's for me, Mayor. I'm going to discuss it during my time at the end of the
Good.
meeting.
All right. I wanted to make sure we weren't missing somebody out here. Okay, very good. Thanks, David. Okay, at this point then, I'll close the public comments and ask the council if anyone needs to declare a potential conflict of interest.
No, sir.
Hearing none, seeing none. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. And we have no reports or presentations, but we do have 2 vacancies on our city tree board, 1 application, and I think we're going to schedule an interview before our next meeting. Is that correct? Or
The first meeting in October is when she'll be back.
Oh,
okay. First meeting in October. So in the meantime, we still have an opening on the tree board for an application. So if you're interested in preserving the wonderful trees of Seaside, this is a great place for you to serve. Moving on then to new business, we have an application for a liquor license resulting from the Best Western Ocean View sale. And I believe the manager is here tonight. Would you please come up? Yes. Mark, good to see you. Tell us, please go to the microphone there.
Or have a seat.
Yeah, or you can have a seat, whichever you prefer. Tell us a little bit of what's happening at the Best Western and a little bit about the change, et cetera.
Sure. So back in June, over, more,
Yeah, good.
up. Is this good?
Good.
So in June, Best Western was sold. Terry Bixel no longer owns it. Now it's owned by Wright's Hotels. And during the sale, the liquor license was under the previous ownership. Mm-hmm. So we got a temporary one, and we just like to have the exact same on-site sales. Nothing's changed. New ownership, good. A lot of good things going to happen.
Good.
We're pretty excited.
Well, it's an important property in our community, and I know you have a great restaurant there. And I saw the report from the police department. There are no issues raised in their overview for the license, and I think the council is more than prepared to approve that. Any comments or questions?
We've met Matt. He was the host of a Good Morning Seaside. Yes. And so they explained a lot of the plans for the facility over the next year or so. So looking forward.
It's going to be awesome.
Good. I'll entertain a motion to approve that the liquor license.
Mayor, I move that we approve the liquor license application for Best Western Ocean View.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next, we have a recommendation coming from the Seaside School District. District Superintendent Susan Penrod is here. Please come up and be seated. We may need to pull up a chair if it will come unhooked. There you are. Good job. Good evening.
Good evening. Zach, I'm going to give that to you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Councilman. And
Pull that right up.
Guys, pull the microphones close to
Get
us.
right up
Thanks.
close, yeah.
We can pull it towards you.
Yeah.
There you go.
I have to record you for posterity.
of course.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Evening.
And councilmen and women. We are excited to be here and share an update with you since our last meeting. So first, I will introduce who I have here with me. Brian Hardeback to my right here is our project manager through this process, and you probably remember Zach Stokes too, who is here from ZCS Engineering. We have other people working behind the scenes, but these are our folks presenting tonight.
Good.
So we'd like to take a minute to reflect on our district vision and the requirements going forward from our new softball field.
I'm trying. I think
John, we're having trouble getting it to go forward.
there we go.
All right. So as I shared with you last time we were here, the school district is committed to providing high quality, equitable, and a long-term facility for our softball athletes as quickly as possible. I will also touch a little bit on the requirements that are needed in order to meet the Title IX requirements. As I shared with you last time, we received a Title IX complaint from the Office of Civil Rights, sharing information regarding equitable spectator views, and also complaints about the conflicting lines in the infield of the softball field. And we've listed some other requirements that we are working hard to fulfill. We entered into an agreement with the Office of Civil Rights and agreed to a timeline. We have submitted 2 check-ins with them so far, meeting those deadlines, and there is a requirement to complete these improvements by June 15th of 2023. The Seaside School District has planned accordingly with our capital improvements budget. So since we last met in June, the council had requested some information from us. So in this slide, I share that since that meeting on June 13th, it was determined that between 2 potential possibilities for the field, Broadway Field and the North 40, it was shared with us in support to move forward with Broadway Field as the possibility. That the North 40, you had some other plans for that, and we're going to be gathering some information. So another request that was made was that the Seaside School District meet with Fire and Rescue, the parks, and Seaside Kids. We have Brian Hardeback met with Fire and Rescue to answer questions, and they had a good conversation about that. As I shared with you, Sunset Empire Parks and Rec has provided a letter of support for the Broadway Field location. Brian Hardeback and I met with the Seaside Kids Board to share information, gather feedback from them, and we also, at your request, presented at the Parks Open House on August 4th. I also met with the Hirsch family, and they have, I believe you have received a copy of their letter of support.
I think I'll take this one moving forward. Just a quick review of the evaluation of the possible solutions. Won't spend a lot of time on this because this hasn't changed since last time. Wahana Fields was geotechnically shown to be a poor candidate for development due to soil conditions, And then the school board voted on April 19th to explore Broadway Field as the next possible opportunity site, while also exploring the North 40 site if it was not large enough. The North 40, as Susan stated, was tabled at the last council session because we believe that it has to develop that into a new park or other development uses. So we have, that has been taken off the table as an opportunity. So Broadway Field was our second choice anyway. It was a preferred site per the June 13 City Council meeting, presented at the Parks Open House on August 4th, and we're here tonight with full and other different information for your information tonight. Evaluation of the Broadway Field as a site. Sunset Emperor Parks and Rec in the City of Seaside have continued to express a strong desire to the district to consider Broadway as the site for this improved softball facility. The benefits shown are that his existing ample parking, as an existing intergovernmental agreement between the parties, with established field amenities, an indoor batting facility, concession stands, locker rooms that are in the middle school existing gym that we're offering to remodel as team rooms to that facility in our improvement. The overall vision for a spring sports destination location that'll allow simultaneous softball and baseball play at the same time. We have had 3 suggested designs received from the Broadway Field location. And I think I don't know what the next slide is here.
That's the...
Yep. Starting off with that, we've received alternative designs from the community at large. We've continued to listen to the community as we've gone through this process and provided suggestions on those. The first alternative proposed softball site would be to move the softball field to the southeast corner of the current football soccer field. This has been looked at. I think Dale and staff have looked at this. It includes potentially relocating the city park. And I think the Osprey Nest is far enough out to the north of that, but it is a concern of that area. So that option also, the southeast corner has a elevation difference of approximately existing right now 4 feet from the football field elevation to the surrounding surface elevation. So that does prove, that's one concept that was provided by the community, is to include an increase to the east along those boundaries. So a number of issues to be considered there, and I think whether Dale or staff have any input on that solution.
We'll just hear from you right now. So
okay, that's fine.
Okay.
The second option that was received was to relocate the softball field east to be actually the north side, I guess, to overlap with the baseball field. I guess it's kind of hard to do without a graphic, but if the home base on baseball field is where it is, to provide home base on the softball field further towards the west, but along that same boundary back there. The concerns with that suggestion, the suggestion also was desired to eliminate the lines in the turf material itself on the football and soccer field when it is returfed and it comes to the end of its useful life here shortly. So that was reviewed. Again, that option would eliminate the possibility of running concurrent play, but we did review that and we've received that from the community. The continue to be the preferred site is the site concept proposed by ZCS's option here, and that may be a little tight. I think we have a PDF that may be a little, or maybe that is the PDF that's a little larger if there's any questions about that. This has changed since the last time we were in front of the board here, in front of council, based on some of the input from fire and safety on the north end primarily of the existing old middle school gym to provide a dedicated fire lane access for aerial truck access.
Excuse me.
yes.
When you're describing it, could you use the pointer or whoever's got the pointer going?
Oh, okay.
And point it out to us, please? Thank you.
Sure.
I don't know.
Is the pointer work?
Your pointer was just going around.
Yeah.
That's somebody else's pointer. Can I stand and point?
Yeah, however, just so that we get sort of a,
Oh, that one. Okay. Here's Zach.
This is the fire lane right here.
Do they need to record, I guess? Thanks.
So this is the fire lane right here as requested by Fire and Rescue. The intention being that a ladder truck could get back up here behind the old gymnasium and access this area. In addition to providing just a fire lane, we're proposing to add additional parking here that would serve the softball field specifically. I think it's pertinent to note there is a softball field on site presently. The home base is about here, and it overlaps with the entire softball field overlaps with the football and soccer field. So the proposal here is to take the softball field here and rotate it up into the corner here, keeping the use of this site the same, but allowing the baseball field and the softball field to function at the same time with these outfield lines here. Hence Brian's comments on it being a spring destination for sports.
Correct. And I think what we indicated last time as well was the Hirsch family batting facility does conflict with that line to give us the minimum playable surface at 185 feet as a radius. So the proposal includes
you want to point to it, please?
Okay.
You might as well stay up there.
Yep, I'll stay here. So this is the existing footprint of the practice facility, and the proposed relocation is this dark gray shaded area.
Correct. And we have discussed this with the Seaside Kids Board and have, as Susan mentioned, presented it to the Hirsch family. And with their support, it's not something that we would, favor doing, but it is very engineeringly feasible and viable to do that, remaining to keep the quality and the performance of that building as good as it is now. Seaside Kids, we have discussed with them it's a quality facility. We view that as a good community asset, and our efforts would bring that facility to its existing or better condition as part of this.
How do you propose to move it?
The proposal to move it, without getting too far into the weeds, we have consulted with Emert International as a contractor to give us a feasibility study on that. We had their Vice President of Operations and myself, I believe Dale and Skylar with Sunside Parks and Recreation District, thoroughly walk and review that facility. And they have provided us a proposal and a feasibility study. Even though it is a pole building, they have moved multiples of these kind very, very successfully. International is one of the top-rated commercial structure movers in the country, and have moved historic buildings, well within the purview of this. And they are very comfortable with their process in doing this. Now, in discussion with the Seaside Kids organization, we recognize that it does have, the existing facility has a radiant hydronic heated floor in it. That, since it's a pole building, the floor actually is placed inside of, there's really no like a foundation to a house. The poles themselves are embedded in the soil, and that provides the structural rigidity for withstanding earthquakes and wind loads. But in this case, we would provide a alternative foundation. We would deconstruct and remove the radiant heated floor slab, construct new foundations, either poles. There's a number of different variants of structural engineering options and solutions to that. We haven't landed on that yet. But then replace, raise it, move it by Emmert or another building contractor to move that. We're focused on Emmert right now because they're the top of the line. But then set it down on, we would have to deconstruct the slabs, move it, set it on the foundations, and then reconstruct a replacement of that hydronically heated slab once the building's back in its final condition.
Okay, thank you.
When you swivel, this is sort of swiveling the building. It changes the footprint of the building on city land, because you're going to swivel it to make more room on one side. That means you're going to be taking up more space on the other side. How much more space are you taking up on the city land?
Well, the exact footprint of it is the building size doesn't change, right?
That's
So in the highlighted area is basically where the community garden patch is. And the discussions with Sunset Empire, that they felt it would be actually a better location for those community gardens would be to the west, up against where the existing middle school is, with a better sun shade area for them. I don't have the gross square footage of that building, but I think it's like 2,000 square
so
feet.
it sounds to me like this building would then straddle both city and SEPRD land?
No,
Building does not. The complex would.
this line right here is the dividing line between Sunset PRD and City of Seaside, and you can see that by twisting and rotating the building, we're actually farther away from the closest corner than we were before.
Still on city property.
Correct. Still completely on city property.
City property, the family, the training facility is.
The part of the drawing that popped out at me was the 5 feet between the fence and the corner of the building. Does it still allow for ADA access to the restrooms right there?
That is the ADA access, is 5 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there an elevation difference from the restroom entrance to the grade around it?
It would be, based on the new elevation of that, would be the same site change now, basically the threshold height. There would be no difference than it would be now.
Okay.
Okay, we're ready to move on.
Yeah, please.
All right, as shared earlier, we have had some great conversations with community organizations around this project. Once again, the letter of support from the Hirsch family and Sunset Empire. At our last meeting, as you know, moving forward to evaluate the Broadway field as opposed to the North 40 or other locations. We collaborated with the Parks Committee to present at the open house. And a reminder that our Seaside School District Board of Directors unanimously approved pursuing this location. City Public Works in the June meeting, Dale recommended Broadway Field as a location to further explore, and shared information about his experience with moving the building and his thoughts on that. And once again, we met with the Seaside Kids Board to discuss, learn from them, and gather their feedback. Next slide.
Speak briefly on the benefits of this project to the community at large. It's a continuation of a community field complex that is centrally located and easy to access with multiple recreational opportunities and open green spaces. The updated regulation size fields gives us a safe year-round play surface, spectator viewing platforms, as well as the ability for softball and baseball athletes to practice and play games concurrently. More cost-effective than building on bare or unimproved land, allowing funding for the turf at the new high school practice field in the inside of the new track. This option would add an additional field for year-round community use. As we spoke previously, the remodeled team rooms at the Sunset Recreation Center would be available for team use, and those 2 larger spaces would become 4 team rooms, so you would have the ability to have both away and home team rooms for both baseball and softball, so you'd end up with 4 rooms instead of the 2 large locker rooms that are right now existing. It does give us the potential to extend the existing walking paths around the entire complex, and now provides an opportunity to replace the turf on the entire field in cooperation with the IGA partners as it is coming near to its end of useful life.
So today we come to you and ask and request that the City Council approve Broadway Field as the site for our proposed softball improvements. Once the site is selected, we'll move forward with a community team to move towards the design process.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before the council gets involved in any further questions, I'm going to ask our city manager. I know the staff here have really reviewed this and they have a recommendation. Spencer?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. As the Mayor said, we've had a chance to discuss it, and we've met with the school district representatives to discuss this, and our staff has been out on site looking at the various proposals. And I know we've had, in some of our one-on-ones, we've talked about this, and maybe I'll start off by saying I think most of us recognize that this is not ideal, but this plan is, I would say from staff's perspective, is the best available option. And while I don't think anyone is excited to have a building moved, especially one that's so new, looking at the various options, I would agree with the district's presentation in terms of the benefits and the overall benefit to the community. As we see it, the list of amenities available to our residents at that site is better under this proposal than it currently stands today. So overall, I think that's a win for the community, despite any drawbacks about this particular design. With that being said, we staff is recommending City Council to approve the site location that the school district has recommended. And I have an email to the council today, and I shared this conversation with the school district and with the Parks and Rec district as well. I think I would recommend adding 3 conditions of approval. I'm happy to answer any questions or have some more discussion. So let me go through these. The first recommendation, or the first condition would be, before relocating the indoor training facility, the school district must receive the consent of all parties in the facility's intergovernmental agreement. So there is an agreement on that batting facility. It doesn't answer every question I had hoped to answer, and so if we're trying to say who gets the say on kind of granting permission to move that building, I don't know how clear that is. So I would say every party who signed the interlocal agreement should give consent. I think that's probably the one thing I could take away, and so I think that needs to happen. Second condition is, I think that I'll read it here and then explain it. The City, Sunset Empire Parks and Recreation District, and Seaside School District enter into a new interlocal agreement for Broadway Park that includes both a field and any on-site facilities. So we have, what was provided in your packet is the original Broadway Park agreement, an amended agreement, and then now the batting facility interlocal agreement. And there's a lot of cleanup, I think, as I've read through it, that could happen that would be beneficial. The original agreement's 10 years old now, and I think we have 10 years of history of building, maintaining, programming that space, and let's take what we've learned from that and let's enter into a new interlocal agreement. Now, kind of with the expansion of the park, this seems to be the best opportunity, the best timing to do that. And then 3, and I appreciate Skylar with the Parks and Rec District suggesting this. I think it's a good one. And feel free to change any wording on this. But Seaside School District create a task force with representation from the school district, the city, Sunset Empire Parks and Recreation District, and any other stakeholders to guide the design and decisions related to the construction of the proposed facility. And I think representatives and I have talked about putting a community team together. So where a site has been selected, there's still a lot more work to do. And since we all have a stake in this facility, it won't be the school district doing the maintenance on the facilities, and maybe all that can be decided in a new Broadway Park agreement. However, I think it'd be important to have all stakeholders be a part of that decision-making process and have the input as we go along. And I think that seems consistent with the message tonight. So with those 3 conditions, staff would recommend approval of the proposed location as outlined by the school district.
So the council may have some questions. We'll start. David? Yeah.
I don't know if this is necessarily the appropriate place to ask it. It would probably be more appropriate at the school board meeting. But how confident are you in the budget to have this completed?
We're very confident in the budget. ZCS has done some preliminary planning, and their recommendations for the work fit well within the range of the budget.
Okay. And what about the timeline? Are you able to get everything that you need to do the project?
The timeline is challenging. When we originally met with the Office of Civil Rights, we shared with them that it was a tight timeline. And in our 2 check-ins that we have had with them, we've continued to share that. We have not asked for an extension at this time, but because we wanted to go further with site selection, but I see that happening.
What is your thought as far as how long this project will take to complete?
I'll let Brian and Zach touch on that.
For me, to mitigate any downtime for the use of the field, we've limited in our own minds that the construction period is between the end of softball baseball season which is about, call it mid-May, to the beginning of practice season for football. So mid-May to mid-August. That's a very doable timeline in that group in that industry. The vendors we've had preliminary contact with, the purchasing agreements seem to be falling into place well if we were able to progress forward with design following this meeting, set our committees, get that all in process. If we could be through design by April, be into public procurement, April, that'll be a little bit before that. It's been between March and April, public procurement, and at least get some of the initial site utility work started in that timeline. We instead of being June of 23, we might be August or September of 23.
Good.
For completion or for
Completion.
starting? Okay.
Yeah, because it does say completion here.
Yeah.
It is tight, but the vendors are right now telling us we've did enough preamble work with the purchasing agreements we're intending to use for public procurement with this, local vendors, and one vendor that is currently working in conjunction with some local vendors that is a national producer of these type of fields, like Hayward Field. They produced Hayward Field, are currently producing in Nestucca Valley School District, Tillamook School District, and this is on their radar for that timeline.
You have spoken to the other agencies involved in the intergovernmental agreement that's out there. What kind of communication have you had with the citizens of Seaside and with their input on this project?
Well, as directed, we presented at the Parks open house. We would have liked to have more people come to that, but we were prepared. We were prepared at that time.
And how many people? How did we get the word out for that meeting?
Well, I shared it with our community, and then the word that the city put out.
I would like to be more specific about that. How did you share it with the community? Because everything that I've looked at from the Parks Advisory Committee, what we asked for was that you put on a public process. We didn't specify that it had to be with the Parks Committee. And I've just gone back and looked at the flyers that the Parks Committee prepared and put out. And it doesn't mention the school district at all. It doesn't mention Broadway Field at all. I don't believe they were under the impression that they were supposed to be doing that. I could find no other mention anywhere inviting the community to come and talk with the school district about their proposals for the use of Broadway Field. So I guess I'm still puzzled as to when did the word get out? How was this presented to the community so people would know they had an opportunity for input?
I communicated regularly with Nancy through email, and she shared with me how she wanted us to present, and we had a back and forth through. We committed to coming to the parks open house, and that was committed early on.
But that wasn't with the public, and the parks.
It'd be like saying you have a communication with your school board and say that's a public communication.
Right, because the flyers that the park department put out, or the Park Advisory Committee put out, and the survey they put out, nowhere anywhere did it mention Broadway Field as a topic of conversation or plans by the school district.
We were not given an opportunity to share in developing that the questionnaire.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to leave it there that I'm not happy with what I'm hearing because I don't feel that the effort was made. I'm going to throw it back to you for anything else you want to say because I've got more questions.
That was all.
Okay.
Steve, do you have any comments?
I have more questions.
I'll get back to you.
Okay.
My main question was, I didn't see any letter support from Seaside Kids. Have they written one, or are they just
They have
verbally? Not. Okay. Well, then that speaks to Spencer's comment then. You have to have it signed by everybody.
Go ahead, Tita.
Sure. I'm going to talk about Spencer's, the conditions. I would suggest that on condition 1, that it says the school district must receive the consent of all parties of the facilities intergovernmental agreement, that instead we create an amendment to that IGA that bears that out with that change and everybody sign that. So it's not it's an agreement within the IGA itself.
When you say we, who are you referring to?
Well, by we, I mean everybody who's involved in the IGA.
So basically, do an amendment to the current IGA,
Correct.
Outlining the things we've discussed here.
That if there is agreement in the shift of the building and that, I think that's a more official way and longstanding recorded way of having all of the parties to the original agreement be involved in the change to that agreement.
Is that not what recommendation number 2 is? How would that be different?
See, I see recommendation something different. And that's where I have a question on that. And that's the definition, you say, of both the field and any on-site facilities. What I see recommendation number 2 as being is a total rework of those 2 IGAs and actually collapsing them together. Mm-hmm. And I think when you look at timelines, you've got to fix this one because you need that quicker. Because I don't think that these IGAs can be done in a timeline where the school is going to be able to do what they need to do in the speed that they need. Those IGAs also indicated that the first one said that would be reviewed the first time 2 years and every 5 years thereafter. I've never seen any reports of any reviews of those IGAs. There was supposed to be a report of the dollars collected due to scheduling the field, and that report was supposed to be, I think, every 2 years. I'd love to see those reports. I don't think we've ever seen any reports that have been, or the reports haven't been required, the reviews have been required. And in everything I come from, if it's not in writing, it never happened. So if I don't see reports, don't tell me it happened, because there's nothing there. And it's just, hearsay, if you will. But so that's what I see, is that we amend the IGA on the building, so all parties can express agreement that the building's going to be rotated, etc. And then the second is that you're going to put those 2 IGAs together and you're going to totally rework them, which according to the IGAs, you can do that. As long as everybody signs and agrees, you can re-establish those IGAs. The third question I have is that the task force, and then you said related to the construction of the proposed facility. To me, I instantly think of the batting cage, but I'm thinking what we really mean here is the redesign of the fields.
I think the redesign of the fields, the renovations of the locker rooms, basically everything is going to go into this project. We want to make sure that all the stakeholders are participants in that process.
So I want all those details, those things, the redesign, the reconstruction, etc. So that we don't have, so we're all on the same page and we all understand the same thing and obligations that everybody has.
Could I step in at this point and say that I'm probably much more simplistic in the way I approach these issues? Basically, what I want to say is that I think this is an excellent location for this field. And I want, as the mayor and a member of this council, to say, yes, let's do this, but you all need to sit down and work out all the details, the intergovernmental agreements, the assurances for the moving of the building, which seems to be the sticking point for Seaside kids. They invested a lot of their emotional energy there, a lot of their time, money. Let's assure them with the information from the moving company and any insurance that goes into assuring that whatever it may be, let's decide as a council, yes, that's the best place for that. All the issues that need to be worked out should be worked out by this task force, and so that we say, yes, that's where it needs to be. Get us back the due diligence to make sure that it's done. That's where I am. Tom, why don't you express your opinion?
Similar in your suggestions. One of the things that the three-way agreement, intergovernmental agreement, functions is is it's not fully clarified. There are some things that have been overlooked or swept under the rug that would be really good to clarify who owns what and the responsibilities of the decisions, so that we don't have disagreements in the future. And and so what you're proposing is the solution to that. But I think we're having to find the time to get it done so we can accelerate your process of construction and design, which is your issue rather than the city's. But my hope is that we can make sure that this one is the squeakiest, tightest contract, so that we don't have any confusions and misunderstandings. And I was kind of hoping, Dan, did you ever look this paperwork over? And do you have any?
Have I looked at them now?
Yes.
Indeed, I have. I've read the 3 of them.
Can you provide some thoughts on that?
I'm not quite sure what.
Well, do you see any shortcomings in the way things are written right now?
There are some things that should be changed over what we see now, and that would reflect, the present changes would reflect what in fact has occurred over the life of the 3 documents. There's some real issues with some of those documents. There's just no question about it.
Well, then perhaps at least have a good attorney look it over to make sure that the structure is all there and all the points have been properly covered.
The district welcomes improvement in clarity in the IGAs. We are in support of that.
I have one more thing. I think it is a great use of that space back there that isn't going to get used otherwise. It's tucked back in a corner. I think it's a great project, but the people that we've heard from are the 3 taxing agencies that are involved in the IGA. We haven't heard from our community, the people that are paying those dollars to have this project done. I haven't seen anywhere where we've had a public comment to feedback on this project. I think the community has seen more of it at the city council level than at the school level. They haven't seen it from the Parks and Rec district. So I don't know that we've heard from our constituents.
The district in good faith has followed the procedure that was requested, which was to present at the open house. We've also connected with all of our community partners and have been sharing this in our board meetings for many months.
But you have to also appreciate that the city, as the owner of the property, and the property is being paid for by the taxpayers of this city, the city has not heard from the public. The city has not heard from its constituency, the city councilors. And so that's a concern for me. I haven't heard from people. Most people don't have a clue that this is even being discussed. And so again, this is the city basically leasing out its property at what cost to its taxpayers. Now, I'm not saying that it's a bad idea. I'm just saying we need to make sure that everybody's on the same page and that we don't have the taxpayers here saying, oh, what kind of a deal did you create in the back room? So
the school district is completely committed to transparency and good faith.
And so
we're not
we.
having back.
No, I know you're.
Deals.
I'm not saying you. I'm saying there's the perception of the public if they aren't given the opportunity to comment with at least one of the taxing bodies. So, and that one's with us.
I'm not prepared to approve it without hearing from at least people being able to speak at our meeting to us to tell us what they think, with it being on the agenda.
Now, when we finish here, I'll open the floor for any public comments.
Right. Thank you.
Now, something else, and I'm going to be the first person to say, I don't know a hill of beans about softball versus baseball and all that kind of stuff. But when this came up in some other conversations, and the timeline came up, etc., the idea, and I don't even know if I'm going to get this right, the idea that was presented was that the way that the school district could make sure that they hit that commitment time of June is that you can use the baseball field, you can double the use of the baseball field also as a softball field. And I know there are people here who know this way better than me, but it has to, you're not going to be able to play two games at the same time, but you can use the baseball field also as the softball field. And you could probably do that for a limited period of time until we get to where we all need to go or want to go. But it has something to do with taking the mound off the
redoing the infield of the baseball diamond.
This isn't my field, but somebody said all this to me, and it's just kind of like rattling around in there.
I'm not sure that meets the Title IX requirement that you're laboring under.
It does not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've looked at that possibility?
I wouldn't say we looked at the possibility. It's not common, let's put it that way, or whether OCR would accept that as a resolution.
Would they see that as a milestone for you guys to get to completing it in a usable timeline?
I can't speak for OCR, but in my 37 years, I've never seen OCR accept something like that.
I wonder if there are other school districts who use the same diamond
for multiple uses
for both baseball and softball.
That I'm not aware of.
And part of the requirement is equal access and scheduling and timing of both practice and games.
I'm wondering also, maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm at the end of my term here, that we haven't had a lot of public comment because everybody's just saying this is a good thing. This is a dedicated softball field for the young women in our community, the students, the female players, the girls. This is a good thing.
I would love to hear that.
And we should be excited about it, moving forward with it. That's my perspective. And maybe if we hear from some people.
Yeah, I would love to hear that.
Yeah.
And there is an existing softball field on that property right now. And it was also shared with me before I became the superintendent that when the bond was being passed, and it didn't pass for the first time in the district, that surveys were put out to the community, and the community continued to share their support for community fields.
So the field, the softball field that's there, did not comply with the Title IX requirement.
Correct.
Yeah.
Was it ever used for softball?
Yeah.
Yes.
It has been.
It's
I think
continually
it was,
been
wasn't it?
used.
Yeah,
Yes.
it has been.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment? This is the second time you've been here, so obviously the city or the residents of the city have had a chance to make some kind of comment if they wanted to. And I agree, we should see if anybody here wants to. I've informally been talking to people, and they say when this comes up, well, it's not being used for anything now. What difference does it make? Get it used. So that's nothing scientific or anything, but just in talking to people, a good deal of which live in my ward, which is down south. So they sometimes aren't even aware there's a spot back there. So I'm fine, but I'm not as concerned as you guys are, I think, in that this is a piece of property that the city's not using now, and we don't have any plans to use it for anything. Let's go ahead.
Don't get me wrong. I'm in favor of the project.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure that we aren't missing hearing from
Yeah.
the community where, in a place where it is duly notified that there's going to be discussion about it.
If I could offer a suggestion, maybe it'd help move this off top dead center a little. Within a site approval, that does give us the opportunity to move the design process forward. As part of that process, I think the team here would offer public design charrettes where that could be more adequately publicized and more detail presented than what we have now. So I think there is still an opportunity to allow that public comment to alleviate some of those concerns.
Thank you.
That would be good. That'd be excellent. Well, why don't we excuse you not to leave the room, but the front, and we'll give an opportunity for some public comment from
Thank
people
you.
in attendance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone present who would like to speak either in support of or in yes, sir, you had your hand up first. Identify yourself and your address, you know the routine.
Dan Shore, 445 12th Avenue, Seaside. I, again, just like I think most of you, am in favor of what they're proposing. However, what you're looking at is a transfer of land to a restricted process. I disagree that that park is not being used. I've used it 5 or 6 times. I've had friends down. I have people that I know that walk their dogs and exercise in there. So it absolutely has to have public input to transfer this land to a non-open public use, regardless of what fee things might the city get. So that's my belief.
Thank you, Daniel. Anyone else like to speak to the issue? Yes.
James McVeigh. I'm concerned about the timeline that was described there. Seems to indicate that Broadway Park would be closed for the majority of the spring and summer of next year during all that construction. Now, I live across the street from it, which means I'm going to be dealing with all the noise from the construction, in addition to the loss of use of the closest park to my home. I take care of a disabled woman at home who, that's where she goes to get her exercise. So suddenly her entire routine is disrupted. And so that whole timeline, how long are we going to have to be dealing with this construction zone, and especially with the noise from it during the day? We hear everything that comes out of there, every event. That's a big concern for me.
Seamus, could I just clarify? I think when you say Broadway Park, the only thing that would be closed would be the turf
walking path
field
that she uses.
The other part of the park would still be operational. Isn't my understanding? Yeah. Just to clarify that. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else like to speak to the issue? Yes, sir.
My name is Wally Hamer. I live in Gearhart, and but I've been involved with the community for a long time. And so one question I have is proposal number 1, looking at the southeast corner of Broadway Field. Well, I didn't hear anything specific about that. What went in? Did anybody do any research? Is that a bad spot? Rather than, it seems like we're focused on the other one, but I was just curious about if anybody did anything.
Yeah, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that option would not allow for simultaneous play if that were. Is that correct?
That's primarily correct, yes. It would eliminate the concurrent play, as well as moving closer to the tidal surge and the flood zone coming up from the creek. That's documented every year because of the elevation difference between the existing football field there would need to be the same elevation if you pushed a softball field to the southeast. So we and the filling between 4 to 10 feet of soil there, and it eliminates a continuum of public access to the walking trails. It would eliminate the public restrooms that are there now. They would have to go somewhere else. Relocation of the playground equipment, which is believe it or not, an engineered solution. You actually have to have a firm engineer to take it out and put it someplace else. So there are a number of concerns with that area, but they were investigated.
Good. It's a good question. I think the answer was yes, it's been researched.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Actually, where they're talking about, there used to be a backstop back there behind Broadway School where kids played. And that, my other question is, we have a lot of teams from youth all the way up. They're using the batting facility right now. So when would it stop? When would kids not be able to use that? Because people are using it right now.
I don't know that we aren't at the point, thank you. We aren't at a point where we have locked down a timeline based on siting, but we would still try to keep that construction period to not impact spring or fall sports. It's kind of just a natural slot in time from mid-May, whenever that spring sports completes, to the beginning of mid-August of fall sports. So it all has to kind of go in that timeline, or it spreads out over 2 years.
Yeah, that's a huge thing for kids in our community, because since that thing was built, you can't imagine how many kids from this tall all the way
Well,
up.
we can imagine. We're members of the community.
Good, because it's being used a lot. So it'd just be hard if we weren't able to use it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good questions. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Scott White, 34353 Highway 26, and also president of Seaside Kids. Our biggest concern is I sent out a survey to our top donors. 12 of the 13 I received back are against moving the facility, mostly because we're thinking the budget to move the facility is double what we spent to build it. So trying to be a good steward, we rely on donations of time and money for our group to keep going. And if we lose some of our top donors, I'm not sure if Seaside Kids can continue. So if this is the best facility, we don't necessarily want to be a cog that's going to put this thing to a stop, but we are going to need to massage a lot of our donors in order for us to keep going as a group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you doing that on the assumption that Seaside Kids would have to pay for the move?
Absolutely not.
no.
But the pushback I get from the donors that I went out and asked for money and time from that are absolutely against this happening, because in their comments, if there was this pile of money that we could spend to move this, why did we have to build it 2 years ago and give up our time and money to do it? That's the pushback we're getting.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
And they are going to pay for it in their taxes.
Yeah, they're going to end up paying for it in their taxes. Yes.
Your major donor did support or approve the move, correct?
Even though that's the name on the building, that wasn't our biggest donors.
It was your largest single donor, in my understanding.
No, it was not.
Well, that's interesting. Why is their name on the building?
Some people don't necessarily want all the credit.
I've been in fundraising a long time, and that's a real new revelation for me, but thank you. Other comments?
Tom Schwenzer, North Holiday Drive. I really wasn't tuned into this issue, which I think is the point that several of you have made. The citizens aren't really aware how much of this is being discussed or what it might lead to. And I do think that public input is needed. I do not feel that the school district has done what they were asked to do. I draw my conclusion attending this meeting. And to me, it feels a whole lot like finding out that the estuary parking lot was sold by the school district to a private party and that the view area there might likely disappear. It just feels like, couldn't this thing slide under the door and get finished that way without having to talk to everybody about it? Because people have a lot of different opinions and will just stand around and argue. I don't like the way that I've heard it's evolved, and I think you have an obligation, which you're fulfilling, to get more information before approving it. It seems a little bit like a project that could be looked at in the future. See what we did, but yeah, at what cost to the feelings in the public about how they're being ignored. They might not disapprove, but what chance have they had to approve? That's what I'm saying.
Thank you, Tom. Any other comments?
Andrew Silvis, 2137 Middle Fork Circle in Seaside. I'm one of the donors for that building. We donated the insulation, my company AMJ Insulation. We got our name on the building. I've got little kids of my own that are going through the school right now, and they go and they attend the baseball games and things like that. And I was pretty proud to show them the work that we were able to do to that building and for our community. And this move is most definitely going to undo what we've done. I'm not going to be able to show them the things that we did for that building. And I was never, as Councilor Montero said, I never heard of it until a few days ago when Chris Corder, one of the contractors that was working on the project, told me about it, and heard about it from Scott White briefly, but wasn't even aware that that was something that was being moved forward. So I completely agree that this needs to be brought where everybody has a chance to look at it. As a donor of the building, I think that I should have been notified, if not the entire community. So, thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Yes, sir.
Brian Taylor, live in Cannon Beach. I'm school board chair. I want to thank you all for all your time, commitment to this community as we do for our school board. This has been a thing we've been dealing with for 10 years. I was, just a little history, I went to Seaside High. I played on Broadway Field. It was grass, and it was baseball and football then. At one point, when the city and the school district and everybody decided to get together and make that thing turf, we're like, that's great. We can we can do everything in the rain. And then we, as a school district, we got sued for Office of Civil Rights for not fair, adequate play. So we're like, okay, let's play the game. So we moved the softball field over there. I feel like Broadway Field is the right spot to be. Now, is that corner maybe the right spot? That's why we're all here. We're trying to figure out where this can go on Broadway Field. If you were to approve this tonight, would it go in that corner? I understand that this is your property, and you have the ultimate choice on where it goes on your property. So I'd like to be able to make sure that we all get a good grasp on where it's possibly going to go. And this open comment is great, but I would like to see this at Broadway, because that's where all our sports fields are, right? We play everything at Broadway. Everything from Seaside, everything at Seaside plays at Broadway. When my dad played football, he played at the old high school. That's where it was then. But when Broadway Field became a lot nicer, that's where they went and played. So, I want to try to keep it there. Now is the right solution to move the batting cages. I don't know. We're just trying to move forward with it. With your help, hopefully we can do that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Time for one last comment. Anyone else? Well, thank you for your comments. I very much appreciated. That's what we wanted to hear from.
Thank you.
Good. Mm-hmm. So as I see it at this point, the council has a couple of options. The one would be to deny the request until we get more public comment or input into the process. The other option that the engineer, the project manager mentioned, was that we could approve the general site with the requiring design charrettes to be done to get more public input. What I would love to see, and looking at the design, how can we pull this off without having to move that building? Is there any possible way that it could be done without moving that building? And I think my sense is that everybody in this room would approve it if we didn't have to move that building. That's the sticking point. And I hear people who've invested their energy, their money, their resources into getting that building, and moving it really undermines some of that. I hear that and I feel that. So that would be my hope, is that the council would be willing to say, yes, we want to see the field at Broadway Field, but we need to hear more public input, and could that be done through the design charrettes with the hope of maybe not having to move that building? That's my perspective, and I'd like to hear the council comment on that. David?
Where I'm at, I think we have brought the idea to the people, and I believe giving them some time to communicate with us, pushing it to next meeting. And I would love to see what the school district is willing to do in that 2 weeks to mitigate those conditions that we've put there, to move towards those resolutions, so that when we get to a point of approving it, we're ready to move forward, they're ready to move forward, and everybody's on the same page. So I would propose that we table it until the next meeting.
Is that a motion?
I do move that we table it till the next meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Not really. My first point was whether Seaside kids were on board with this or not, and they're really questionable right now, and I can understand the reason why. So nothing's going to happen as far as I'm concerned unless they're on board.
Okay, the motion's on the table. Are we ready to vote on that motion? Mm-hmm. Roll call vote. Those in, sorry, Kim.
That's all right. No problem, Mayor.
Those in favor, maybe it's unanimous vote. Let's see. Let's try a voice vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. I think it's a unanimous vote. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Okay. Thank you very much, and you'll be on the agenda at the next meeting. Hopefully we'll see some progress by then. That's the, is that a possibility? You're looking at your calendars.
We're unclear what you'd like us to present in 2 weeks.
Your public plan for how to engage more public input into, is that what I'm understanding, David? Yeah.
I'd also like to see if, movement goes towards getting those IGAs ironed out, because that's a big piece of what we have as a requirement for us to approve it.
And in 2 weeks, I doubt if that's going to happen. Get started.
Is there any action towards it, or are we just wait until?
The IGA amendment is fairly simple to work out.
Well, the first one about the building
Right.
would be.
And that's the most important one right now.
And that's the most important one.
Right.
And that's the one that hinges totally on Seaside kids. Right. But to be clear about what I would expect the school board to be presenting, the school district to be presenting at our next meeting, is what they didn't present to enough people at the Park Advisory open house. And that is, you talked about charrettes, you talked about what your plans are. I would hope to see a really large turnout, both in person and by digital means, for people to get a better idea about what the school district does in fact want to do.
Tita, are you hoping to see a plan for that, or having that been completed before the next meeting?
I think, a plan for it.
A plan. I mean, a little bit more than we're getting so that it's a little clearer for people like me who don't know squat about baseball and softball. A little bit about what would be the process, what would be the access that the public who don't have kids in school, but they're paying school board taxes, don't necessarily use SEPRD, but they're paying taxes there, and certainly are paying city taxes. And what is their access going to be to now what would appear to be total Broadway field taken over by the school district?
Yeah, I don't get that statement. Yeah.
Well,
it's
yeah.
still a public facility.
It's still, yes, but to what extent is it still public? And if you look at the IGA, there's...
Just like the football field is public. It can be rented, it can be checked out.
Primary access to it is for the school.
Primary access is to the school, secondary access is to CA.
And these are our citizens. These are people who are our citizens here. Yeah.
You know, the one piece I hadn't heard in this whole thing is cost. And again, it may be a school board meeting issue. What's the cost going to be? I hear that it's going to be double the cost to move the facility than it was to build it. You know, have the taxpayers have the opportunity to determine whether they want their money spent that way, and have they given that feedback to the school board? You know, I mean, those are things that aren't our responsibility to enforce, but you know, if we're not getting the public comment because it's not being notified, are the people paying those taxes in the same situation?
Yeah, the bottom line issue is that you are under a mandate from the civil rights entity to build a softball field for the women or the girls. That's what you use in high school, isn't it? The girls' teams. And you're asking us to help you with that. I think from my perspective, we as a council need to say, yes, we think it's a good idea to put it in our park where we have ultimately unified use of the whole park for recreation for our citizens. How you pay for it, that's your issue. How you communicate it to the public, that's your issue. We'd like to hear about that. I think the big issue is the agreements that need to be crafted that do involve the city. I think you can be working on those. Using your attorney to help us with that, and our attorney. Spencer, you have any further comments?
No, I think that's the direction's helpful. I'm not sure we'll have anything solved in the next 2 weeks, but we can provide an update. And Susan, maybe we can meet tomorrow and help put a plan together.
If 2 weeks is too soon, I'm concerned about your deadline. You tell us when you would be prepared to come back to the council with the issues that we've raised.
Yeah. 2 weeks is fine. I'll meet.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Can we move on to the next item? Good. Our soon-to-be-gone librarian, Esther, thank you for coming tonight to talk about the intergovernmental agreement, the IGA. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor and City Councilors. Yes, so we as a city signed this 3 years ago, and it has come up for renewal again, and with some slight changes, and they're all very positive changes. So this, a little back history, was formed in order for the 3 libraries to work together cooperatively. So we formed our first ever cooperative in our county, the Northwest Library Cooperative. And so since then, we have offered shared library cards across our system. We have a shared courier system, and we also all work together through the library's reading outreach. So this IGA is basically an update stating we're still doing this. We would like to continue this process for the next 5 years. We have seen excellent results for the City of Seaside library patrons. They are not only finding the items at the other two libraries, they are using them extensively. Our initial concern was because we had such a great collection that all our items would go out and nothing would come in. And actually that is, I'm happy to say that is not true. We are almost equally sharing across all three libraries. Of course, Warrenton has a slightly smaller collection, but the flow across the three libraries is excellent. And our library patrons say they walk in and use the other two libraries as well. So people are excited by the use of this. So this agreement is just re-upping that for another 5 years. I updated some language. I was happy to take out some that was saying, we hope you get up to our level. I was able to take that out because we are now all at the same level.
We're there. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So if there's any questions.
Good. Any comments or questions?
The comments I would share are that this has been discussed quite a bit at the library board meetings, and Esther has kept the library board very much involved, taken their input, and kept them very well apprised of this. And my read of the library board is certainly that they are fully in support of this.
And I should add, it has been reviewed both by our attorney and also by the City of Astoria's attorney as well.
Good. Tina, would you like to make a motion to approve
as
this?
the library board liaison, I'd love to. I move that the city council accept the new intergovernmental agreement for the library cooperative and integrated library system between Astoria Public Library, Seaside Public Library, and Warrenton Community Library.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any further comment or discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. And at this point, I'm going to stand to my feet and thank Esther Moberg. You will be missed, but we wish you well for Warrenton. They are so blessed to have you, and
lucky.
Your imprint is going to be long felt here in Seaside. Thank you so much.
Well, you made me cry, but I have appreciated working with all of you in this capacity. It has been a true delight. So.
Wonderful. It's been a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther.
Chief, approval for seismic rehabilitation for the fire station and for City Hall. Or no, for the police department.
Police.
Not City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mayor and Council. So back in June, I came to you guys and was talking that we got seismic grants for both the police and fire station from Business Oregon. The police station was in the amount of $1,627,897, and the fire station's $1,707,595. So we put out a request for proposal, and we had quite a few people look at it, probably about 20, because it's recorded on our system. Jeff Laurie helped put that in there because he uses it a lot. So people would have to actually write their name and stuff and kick it back to me. And I kept track. So there's about 20, 24 people looked at it, which means they got a copy. And then we got it was a mandatory walkthrough because I didn't want someone to say, I didn't know that. So we had 4 show up to the walkthrough. And out of those 4, we ended up with 2 that actually submitted. They had to submit to me via email their proposal. This is similar to what we do with Convention Center. And if you ask me a lot of questions about construction, I'm going to defer to Dale. But so when we got these, both I sent them off to Dale. I'll make Dale our Public Works Director to review also, because that's his thing. And I reviewed them just to look at the content and what we were looking for. So if you look at what we were looking for, size of only rehabilitation experience, project team, special qualifications, project quality control, project construction cost control, and project must-haves. So that's kind of what we went through. There was a scorecard. He did it in his office, did it in mine. We put them together and submitted this proposal. So after all that, We had the Klosh Group, which scored 136 over 200, and WRK Engineers, which scored 177 over 200. And after scoring both submittals, staff recommends the City Council award the contract to WRK Engineers. Questions that I might be able to answer?
You've all had a chance to look at the material. Any questions or comments on it?
I didn't realize there were 20 to start with
Wow.
before you ever got to the 4 that walked through and then 2 actual bids. I'd weeded it down. I'm sure you guys took a long time to go through this, and I definitely trust your judgment.
That's why I kicked it to Dale also to review.
That's right. Well, no, he's a great one to add in there, yes.
Absolutely.
If there aren't any other questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve that bid.
I would like to move that we approve the bid from WRK Engineers.
I'll second.
You got it.
Okay,
Tom.
just barely. Huh?
Got it. Second. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. And you've got another
Have
item.
fun.
Round 2. So the next one I've got up here is we were fortunate back about last March to do a AFG grants, Assistance of Firefighter grant that went out as a group. Chief Rackman put it in for Cannon Beach, and it's a regional grant that incorporated us, Jewel, or my sleepy, Elsie Vine Maple, Hamlet, Gerhart, and Warrenton. There was a cap on the cost. That's why we did 2 grants, one for North and one for South County, and we're hoping North County gets theirs this year. So with that, Chief Medina out of Columbia River Fire and Rescue in Columbia County, they're having a little more struggle getting their radio systems up. And they have the same radio we had before, and are requesting to have some of our batteries and pieces so they can get by for the next couple of years. When we got those radios in 2009, they were also under a grant. So I think that it would be appropriate for us to share that and help other fire agencies as we can. So my recommendation would be to give them what we could. It was still left that works, and it's being used for fire agencies. So.
We have a good history of doing this with fellow fire departments, and I think it's a great thing to make sure that the equipment can continue to have a good life. I think it's excellent. I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
I move that we approve the donation to Columbia
Is there a second?
River Fire and Rescue.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
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 Approved the same.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Get some rest. Kim, do you want to walk us through, since you've been working on this, our elections clerk? We now have the final slate for our mayor and the 3 city council wards that are open. And we have at least 3 of those candidates here tonight that I can see. Okay.
Just read what I have, the results.
Yeah.
So for mayor, I have Steve Wright. He's running all by himself this year.
Oh. Don't outrun yourself.
City Council, Ward 1, I have, which was Steve Wright's ward, actually, right now. Dwayne
Steve.
Solom.
See who?
And Stephen Dillard. The ward that Steve Wright serves right now.
All right, I got that.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
Okay.
And then on Ward 2, I have Tita running again, Tita Montero. And I have Carl Shore, which is at the meeting here tonight. And so is Stephen. Yeah. Stephen Dillard is here. And then from Ward 3 and 4 at large, which would be Councillor Phillips' ward, is Seamus McVeigh, Seth Morrissey, and Marcus Runkle. So I have 3 in that ward running.
Good.
And those are all certified, so that would be our elections this year.
Wonderful. Well, for those of you that are here, congratulations and thank you for being willing to step up, and Tita for being willing to step up again, and Steve being willing to step up again. As I say so many times, volunteerism is what makes this city run. And for people to step up to long meetings and sometimes tense points of view. To be willing to say, yes, I will serve means a lot. So congratulations and good luck in the election. November 8th is the general election. It'll come up then. Okay. There's no action we need to take, is there, on that? No. Good.
You are doing something a little different this year, though. You're going to hold an orientation session. Are you going to talk about that at staff? Okay.
Yeah, but I think it goes nicely now. So
Yes.
we're going to be putting together a city council candidate orientation. So it'll be a night for our candidates to meet with city staff. I have some overview of kind of the operations of the city, get to know our department heads, and where they can go to for resources. And our goal is to have a well-informed election in terms of that our candidates are as informed as they can be or want to be. And so we're looking forward to that, and we're starting to plan that and put that together.
Good. That'll be very helpful.
Yeah.
And did we send an updated time yet? No. We may be bumping up the time a little bit with some information we received today, so stay tuned, candidates.
Yeah. Okay. All right, good. Well, we come to the end of our scheduled agenda. We want to hear from any city staff that are here. Dale, you've been so quiet tonight. Let's hear from you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Everything is wonderful. Everything is fine. Esther, it's been a great 10 years. Thank you very much. And Joey, thanks for the opportunity to work with you on the seismic upgrades. Thank you, Mayor.
Good, thank you. Esther, anything more you would like to contribute tonight?
I just wanted to mention, in case you hadn't heard, there is an interim library director. My assistant director, Josh Morman, will be stepping up to that position while you're hiring a new library director. So just in case you're wondering, there will be someone still running the ship. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I was sure. Yes, Chief.
I first want to start out by saying all of our task forces are back from fighting fire.
Good.
They came at 6 o'clock tonight, so we went to 4 of them. If you guys saw, we were in the Oregonian. Some of my guys ate ice cream. For Saturday, they went to a quick response to Estacada when they were having issues. They called us, so we had 2 task forces out at once. But I also want to thank Esther for the 10 years I've had the pleasure of working with her. So we've had a lot of fun since we pretty much went to department heads together. So good luck, and I'm sure she'll call me for some help in the future.
Very good.
As long as it's not for a fire.
Yeah.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we are in the final stages of actually hiring an accounts payable clerk. Maybe remember Anna Dennis is moving to court clerk, so we're wrapping up that and hope to have that finalized this week. And those 2 positions will actually share duties more than they have in the past so that we can have good continuity of coverage in the future. The building official position, which I know is of interest to the community and people, closed yesterday, so we'll be reviewing. We didn't have about a handful of applications, so we'll be starting the review process in there. And then, as Esther noted, with her departure, Spencer and I will actually be doing some screening interviews this week for our next library director. From there, I actually pushed out a survey. Esther did a great job of putting some recommendations together for folks that might be interested in that. So we pushed out a survey to get some dates together, and we believe we'll be doing finalist interviews with 2 panels that includes a meet and greet scheduled for either September 29th or 30th, and that information will be forthcoming as quickly as possible so that everybody can plan accordingly. But I too want to just commend Esther on her 10 years, and we worked together on quite a few things, including visioning several years ago, and so it's been a pleasure to work together and watch you grow, and good luck in Warrenton.
Yeah, I miss the other faithful people out there. Let's start with the Chamber of Commerce. Yeah, Katie.
Sure. I just want to invite everyone to Good Morning Seaside this Wednesday. We're actually going to hold it at the Seaside Library to say thank you to Esther. and all she's done. We're really sad to see her go, but excited for her. And then September 28th for Good Morning Seaside, we're doing a meet the candidates with the top 3 for the chamber CEO position that has now closed. So, yeah, thank you.
The CEO position for
the chamber.
Seaside Chamber.
Yes.
Okay. Good, thank you. SDDR. Christy. Carrie, excuse me.
Usually I'm called Kelly.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's who we go to.
Kelly.
I actually had to write notes. I haven't had anything to say for so long. But we did the Seaside Golf Classic last month. It was a pretty good time. I actually learned a lot about Seaside kids I hadn't really known. I hope everyone knows about their history. I didn't. And they've been around since, I guess, 1950. And it was started by local business community leaders donating money. And it's probably, if I had to pick a group, it really does explain and epitomize Seaside in many ways and what they've done in the past. So I'm glad that we were able to do a benefit for them and for the SDDA. Flower baskets are going to come down after the car show this weekend. I know they're getting a little rusty in some of them. So Pam and Nature's Helpers trying to keep them together as long as they can. But since the car show went a week extra, or a week later, I should say, we're going to keep them up, and hopefully they'll look great on the weekend with the cars. We're hoping. We are working on the walking map for downtown Seaside for 2023. We will be having Halloween happenings. That'll be October 29th and 30th. We'll have the Witches Paddle on the Nicanicum. We'll have the Pet Parade, the Carnival, Trunk or Treat, and the Big Pumpkin Drop on the beach at the turnaround. And then we also have Saturday, November 12th, we'll have the Wine Walk. So it's all coming together again. Yeah. And I want to thank Katie. She's actually helped out with quite a few things, but she helped us out doing credit cards at the golf tournament, and it was a huge help. So it helped us raise over $1,300. So
working together, that's
it's really great. She's been very, very helpful. But that's it.
Good.
Thank you.
I have to say that I was just looking at a few of the flower baskets this past weekend, thinking how wonderful and how they looked and how they had fleshed out. There are some that are just looking beautiful.
Dry summer.
Yeah,
yes.
Amazing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Skylar, good to see you tonight. You want to add anything? Since we were talking about you throughout the meeting.
Yeah, I think I'm just keeping you from your evening, but just a couple of things to share. It's been a very busy time, but I think there's some important updates from Sunset Empire. So we have 3 more Wednesdays of the Seaside Farmers Market, and that will conclude on I think it's the 28th. That is our last Wednesday. So it's been a really successful summer. We're averaging over 950 attendees each week. And it's just something that's continued to grow every year, and doing a lot of great work, I think, with the SNAP benefit program and with the WIC program, and providing access to food for local families and children. So that's really good. In about a week or two, we're going to be opening infant and toddler care for the first time ever for the district, and that's really exciting. We've expanded our youth program services to incorporate 1s and 2-year-old, or 0, 1s and 2-year-olds. We've never been able to offer that, but we've received over $100,000 in grant funding to help us kind of kickstart that program, and now we have the space to accommodate the program. So really excited about that. I really enjoyed the proclamations that were read, and in regards to that, on Saturday, October 8th, the district is partnering with Consuejo Español to host a Latinx Hispanic Heritage Night at the Sunset Recreation Center. So that'll be from 3 to 9 p.m. We'll have cultural food, music, dancing, and other activities associated with the Latinx culture. And we're really excited about that project, that event. It's a really great thing, I think, for our community, and helping us to open the doors of that building to that population is really important for us as we move forward. I'm trying to make sure I don't forget anything else. I guess the last thing I would say, there was a lot of really good comment and feedback about the Broadway Field presentation, and I know that's something that's been on the council's mind. I would share, we keep research and data on the field and its usage, and since the school district relocated up the hill, about 80% of the time that the field is available, about 80% of the time that it's daylight and the field can be used, it's open for public use. So by and large, the field is generally open for walk-up people or rentals of the field. I think that's a really important note, but I should share this as well. Obviously, the school district is the primary user. They use the field about 75% of the time that it's programmed. So they're the big users of the field. And so we want to make sure that the public has access to it. I think that's a condition of the IGA, and it's in our mission as a park and recreation district to be inclusive and to serve our entire population. I think we're all searching for a solution to this problem that will meet the school district's needs, but also still continue to provide that access for our community so that people can walk up and recreate on the field. They can use the space as they see fit. So I'm open to any questions. The other thing I would say, this has been at the forefront of our district board's mind. I've been tasked probably for at least 3 years now with reviewing and changing the intergovernmental agreement between the parties for the field. And it's just been something that's kind of just because of complications, because of COVID, because of this project that we've sort of been waiting on capitulating. It hasn't happened. And but it continues to be on our agenda. And I think that's part of the public comment process maybe that you're referring to. We haven't received a lot of public comment either, though. And so to your point, maybe there's some space there that could be occupied by some messaging or marketing. So anyways, open to questions, and thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Skyler. Dan, it's good to see you tonight.
Good to be here.
Any further comments?
No, I wish Esther well. Esther has never, ever submitted an IGA to this council without me seeing it first. I get a chance to react.
Wow.
She's been a pleasure to deal with. We are been well served by this lady.
Absolutely. Amen. Kim, any further comments tonight?
No, I will miss Esther. So congratulations. I will talk to your city recorders more than you, but I'll try to bug you here and there, okay?
And the last word from staff, Spencer, any comment?
Sure. I've got about 20 minutes worth of comments, so everyone get comfortable. No, obviously my work with Esther has been brief. I've appreciated her work, and I think I've expressed this to her. I'm excited to be able to work with her as a colleague, and she has a lot of knowledge here about the city, and the city managers in the area regularly get together, so I'm looking forward to be able to get information from her and hopefully be a resource for her as well. So looking forward to, I'll say, continued work with her. So I'm excited about that.
You've got her on speed dial?
Yeah. We'll work on that. I need a lot more people on my speed dial. I would just say, kind of echo what John Relis said, a lot of changes coming, staffing. We're working hard on those and trying to juggle a lot of them. It's a very exciting time, and I'm excited to get some of the new people in place. Looking forward to that. On a personal note, I appreciate the support the council's given me and my family. We last Monday officially moved in, became residents here in the area, and so now we've gone from apartment living to living out of boxes, and we are slowly getting settled. But we're loving it here and appreciate all the support, not just from the council, but from the employees here and from the community. It's been very welcoming. The other thing I was going to mention is I'll be starting Saturday. Thanks, John. I can't remember. It was this Saturday. No, it's this Saturday. I'll be heading to my city manager's conference. I'll be out of town Saturday through Wednesday, but available. Probably the best way to reach me if anything comes up is text or phone call. Be checking emails, but they will likely pile up faster than I can respond to them. But if anything comes up, I think we're in good hands with John and our other department heads. But if anything, feel free to reach out to me. Just know I will be on Eastern time zone, so nothing past my bedtime. But thank you.
Okay, thank you, Spencer. From the council, David, I'm anxious to hear about this Seaside Food Forest.
So I've had a bunch of ideas rolling around in my head after the success of the emergency food buckets. during the spring. I wanted to bring something that was a little more sustainable and long-term. And I've seen it done other places. There's a big push that came out of Eugene, and I just put a working name on it as Seaside Food Forest. And what the idea, that I came to a vision of what it would look like, 5, 6, 10 years from now, is Seaside would be a community of neighbors working together to ensure food security, livability, biological diversity, wildlife habitat, and a cleaner environment. And I think it's a very broad umbrella for a lot of different things that we could add to it. And some of the things that I came up with was developing a tool library, so our residents that don't have tools to be able to do gardening or other things around their house would be able to access and use. I have a friend who started the tool library in North Portland. It's been extremely successful. Improving the waste stream of yard debris. We collect it, but we don't do a whole lot with it. And I've spoken with some of the landscape contractors in the area, and they've got to take it all the way up to Astoria, and it could definitely be processed and used locally by our residents. Container gardening, there's people that don't have yards. We have community gardens that I don't know that they're being fully utilized as of present. Gardening material availability, being able to have more access to compost. Seeds, I believe there's a seed library at the library. I don't know the current situation of it, but definitely something to look into. Being able to have mulch and access to free containers to be able to grow stuff in. Educational opportunities, I've got to call into the OSU Extension Office and the Master Gardeners to be able to be a resource. Tons of community service opportunities to be able to have our high schoolers that are doing their Pacifica projects get involved with turning some of the bare area that we have in town. When I say bare, I'm also talking grass lawns that could be used for areas to grow food or other flowers that attract pollinators and can enhance those areas. Neighborhood enhancement opportunities through that, and then improved resident interrelations. People, when they start growing stuff, the neighbors see it, the neighbors love seeing it, and the sharing that happens between people that grow food together, it just builds communities as opposed to just everybody in their own place. I think really the next step is I would like to get together a group of people that would like to brainstorm areas of opportunities, some of the obstacles that we'll run into, and the available resources and partnerships that we can meet with. I've met with Skylar. They manage the community garden plots. There's talk about us moving those and being able to make the most of those. There's a mulch pile or mulch bins in the back. But they don't look well used. And so I think there's just an opportunity to be able to bring a lot of people together to make food, for people.
I love the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to call for a meeting?
I will put out, basically what I wanted to do tonight is just to be able to say, please contact me if it's something you're interested in being involved in. And then we will schedule a time where we can get together, get everybody in the room, and just start doing some brainstorming of how to bring everything together. Because I don't know how to get from A to B, but I know there's a lot of people out there that do.
Good. Excellent. It's great.
Be sure RJ knows about it.
What? I'm sorry?
Be sure RJ knows about it.
Will do.
For the paper, yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Anything else?
That's all.
Tom, any comments?
Well, of course, I'd like to congratulate Esther on your new job, and thanks for your 10 years. It's been an interesting trip. It's quite a library you've put together here. So good luck. And in other things, I'm really looking forward to getting the new baseball field, softball field put in. Now, I realize there's procedures and transparency and opportunity for everybody to be involved. The Parks Advisory Committee, it's been a topic on our agenda for many meetings, but we're not tasked with doing outreach for the school district. But it does have some advantage in that it's that field just barely fits in there, so there's not a lot of wasted land where you break up a big avenue with something in the way. Yeah. So I'm hopeful that we can get them on their way and end up with a three-way memorandum of understanding that's the one that everybody comes to see how it's done.
Tita?
Yes. Also, I would like to congratulate Esther on her moving to a city manager position. It's been a great 10 years working with you, and I think that something that most people are not really aware of is that not only has Esther led a team and that has improved our local library, but she's been very active in leading a team of the other library directors and staff and improving library system for the whole county. And at the same time, with the realization that Seaside is pretty much in the leadership position of all that. So I think it's going to be a loss to us. I think that Warrenton is very lucky to have you, and I hope our new library director puts you on speed dial. So thank you. I think that's all for tonight for me.
Steve.
Couple of updates on things that have been happening with housing. The county housing group met again last month and announced a new Clatsop County dashboard about housing. You can go to the county website and find more about that. Tillamook gave us their update. It was the same one basically presented here a couple of months ago. And we're working on developing a mission vision type statement to figure out, okay, where do we go after this? That'll be our next meeting at the end of September. On transportation, the bid from Big River for almost $6.8 million was awarded. I believe they're still working out the details. That's for Avenue A to K. So hopefully that gets done soon and they can get to work. This weekend, found out on Thursday, we were just going to pretend to make salt down at the salt makers. And we did, and we actually had almost as many people as we had last year. We had perfect weather and actually made salt. So it was a successful event and a good time down there. Another history item is History and Hops will resume at the end of this month over across the street at Seaside Brewing on Thursday, September 29th. And I already mentioned this to Esther, but we'll miss you, except I kind of will have a little in, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of meetings where you will be there that I'll be involved with in the future. So, and probably, let's say, the last time you'll have to hear this from me is I still think Seaside Library is way better than Multnomah County Library that I came from, so.
Good, thank you. Just for you all to look at your date books or look for reference, the Planning Commission would like to have a workshop with us. And the date that they have their next workshop scheduled is October 18th at 6 p.m. And they think it would be great, according to their chair, Robin Montero, that we could join them. They're going to bring forward some items for discussion, and if we have any items that you'd like to discuss with the Planning Commission, please let me know. And
One more time with the date, please.
18th, October 18th.
October 18th.
Yeah.
And they start at 6, do they not?
6
Yes,
o'clock,
that's
yeah.
correct. Yeah, 6 p.m.
Will do.
Yeah, good, okay. We'll need to communicate that to our two absent members tonight, but we'd like to get as many of us there as we can. Again, Esther, farewell and good luck. We're here to support you in that new role if we can be of any support and help. And as a friend, I want you to know I'll be praying for you. That it's a big job that you're taking on.
Mm-hmm.
This past weekend was a solemn remembrance. 9/11, 21 years ago. And I remember the statement that President Obama made. I think his first year in his office, he said, in really helping us to put something positive on the awful, awful thing that happened, he said this: even the smallest act of service, the simplest act of kindness, is the way to honor those we lost, a way to redeem that spirit of unity that followed. And so from that point, a day of service was established, if you recall, and that's being observed all over the country. And instead of moaning and we certainly grieve, but putting positive actions on the grief, people are out serving in their communities and doing great work. And I think this is a good thing for us to remember, a simple act of service. The simplest act of kindness can help us with our grief. With that, the meeting's adjourned.